welcome to you all at home.
You've still got a chance to win this race, haven't you?
Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it through the
Hey guys, Harrison I'm back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome back to Dre TV. And no, I know what you're thinking, it's been a really long time since I've actually made a video, like, properly, rather than just a hangout or a podcast, and there's a good reason for that. I've been tweeting about it a little bit. I lost my voice a little bit. I was at the Super Bash party at the O2 Arena this past Sunday to watch the Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks.
I can't believe it. We've won the fucking Super Bowl. Oh my god, one of the most amazing nights of my life. Oh my god. Magical. Just magical. I'm in tears, man.
And I screamed so loud on Malcolm Butler's game-winning interception that I lost my voice. Whoops. So yeah, that was a thing, and as a result I couldn't really talk properly for a good while, and I'm still not at 100% at the moment, but I think my voice is in a good enough state where I can commentate and actually talk without you guys going, huh? So yeah, welcome back to Dre TV, guys. I just want to say before I start as well, massive thank you to everybody for all the kind words regarding me hitting 500 videos on this channel, which is a ridiculous number, and I don't know what I've been doing with my life. But thanks to all the support and kind words regarding that, and here's to the next 500. Yeah, this is going to be the first of maybe 2 or 3 more Dre TV videos coming up in the next or let's say week or so, where I'll be talking about this Marussia situation, testing the first testing period in Jerez, and MotoGP testing as well, and things to point out from that in Sepang. So there could be 3 Dre TVs between now and the middle of next week, so hope you can look forward to that. And I did manage to get a copy of Split Second Velocity as well, so there'll be a Racing Game Chronicles episode coming probably this weekend, and a Dre Talk. So I've got my next 4 or 5 videos laid out in plan. It's just a matter of me going out and doing them, so hopefully that'll work out quite nicely. So let's talk about Marussia, shall we? And just when you thought Marussia was dead and buried, it looks like, oh, they're coming back after all. Maybe. Sort of. Kinda. On one end of the garage, you have Caterham, who are finally selling all their assets in an auction next week, including their 2014 cars. So it looks like Caterham really is dead and buried. But Marussia, at the 11th hour, looks like they might very well be saved. It looks like Marussia are going to come out of administration. I think I'm hearing later in the month, and it's down to Justin King. And Justin King, who you may not know, used to be head of Sainsbury's, the British supermarket chain. If you're American, consider it like a British version of Walmart, only not quite as good. Like Best Buy, maybe. I know my Americanisms to a degree, so that kind of helps in this situation. But Justin King, the former head of Sainsbury's, was willing to put money into the pot to try and save the team and, you know, put them out of administration. I think more on the proviso that they were able to, you know, be able to run their 2014 car, because Marussia just haven't got the funds to be able to build their own 2015 car. So the plan was they were going to go to the strategy group and say, can we come back using last year's car, or using a developed version of last year's car that fit the 2014 rules rather than 2015 rules. So that was a thing. I think that came up during day 3 of testing that first got noted. Yeah, like, it's only a rumour at this point because Justin hasn't actually come out publicly and said he's doing this. And a team that represents him came out the other day and said, you know, we don't comment on rumour and speculation, and, you know, there's been no official word on Justin's plans yet. And once we know more information, we'll pass it on, basically. So Justin King's group wasn't publicly saying anything yet, but it seems like that's the plan, at least for the short term. You know, to basically try and come back with a you know, a team that fits the 2014 regulations. So that was the thing. We talked about it on the Motorsport 101 podcast as well. If you haven't already, check it out in the description. We talked a lot about, you know, Marussia and whether they should come back or not, or maybe it's for the best if they don't, and I'll talk about that again in a bit. But the story developed last night where the strategy group voted and Force India vetoed. So basically all the other teams were apparently okay with it, and were apparently okay with letting Force India, or letting Marussia, I should say, compete with a 2014 car. Force India vetoed it, saying that their bid to come back, and I quote, lacked substance. And apparently, according to Bernie Ecclestone, there may have been 3 or 4 teams, apparently. Which, the actual story's not been completely set, but the only one for sure is that we definitely know that Force India vetoed the vote. And there's rumours that Lotus and Sauber apparently did the same as well. So, yeah, that's a thing. So basically, Marussia are not allowed to be able to compete with their 2014 car. Which has been an enormous setback to Marussia's potential comeback. I mean, the story came out this morning that Marussia have not given up hope, and that they are trying to now build a car via the 2015 regulations, maybe for China, round 3 of the season. So Marussia are still aiming to hopefully try and compete, just not yet. Obviously, they're not going to make testing and whatnot, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about this, because I've mentioned before in previous videos, I like the Marussia team. They're a great, Anglo-Russian unit built in the UK. Graham Loudon is a great guy. The team is full of great people, and a lot of jobs were lost as a result of Marussia's collapse. And I feel very sad about that. And they're a team that I've mentioned before. Only came up in 2010, were a brand new team from scratch, and they turned themselves into point scorers in 5 seasons. That's very, very impressive, and it's an incredible achievement for such a small outfit, and they should be very proud of what they've been able to achieve in that very short period of time in F1 history. But at the same time, what are you coming back for here? If you're let's pretend that they were able to run their 2014 car in this year's championship. They would not be anywhere near competitive. There's all the talk that the cars are much faster this year already. The fastest time in testing was a 120.8 at Jerez from Kimi Raikkonen. That was 4 seconds faster than last year's fastest time in testing, I should say. And essentially, the cars are feeling like they could be really, really fast, maybe back up towards 2013 levels more consistently. So the cars are getting faster. And Marussia would be running last year's car, which was already dirt slow, and they'd have no one to compete against because they haven't got Caterham to compare themselves to, like they were around last year. So Marussia would stick out like a sore thumb. It would be like having a procession out there on track. Honestly, if Marussia came back right now, I think they would genuinely struggle to make the 107% rule and be unable to compete. So what's the point? Marussia have not got the money to be able to compete, even with Sauber at the moment. I know they outpointed Sauber last year, but let's be honest, that was down to one miracle race where Esteban Gutierrez would have scored points if he didn't hit the barrier. So, I don't see the point in Marussia coming back. What are you coming back to? You're going to be the bottom feeders again, and where are you going to make your money? How are you going to make a profit? How are you going to have a healthy industry or have a healthy team if you're constantly at the back with very little chance of ever being able to recover? It just doesn't make any sense to me for them to come back. And I know Marussia have got a lot of public support, and I know Marussia are a very liked and respected team, but if you take away the rose-tinted spectacles from what they've got here, you realise they've not really got a lot, and they haven't really got a good reason to be back, in my opinion. Right now, at this state of time, I think Marussia would not be allowed to race. And if they were allowed to race, they'd be a walking advertisement for the inequality problems in Formula 1, which I mentioned before in episode 2 of this series. I talked about how Marussia and Caterham folding was a desperate cry for help, and how F1 is fundamentally flawed when it comes to financial revenue and revenue sharing, and just, equality in the field. So, for me, it just feels like, well, what's the point in coming back, It just feels like they'd struggle around and then eventually run out of money and fold again. I know everybody likes an underdog and whatnot, but it's just, ugh. The whole thing just seems bleak to me. And, like, they haven't even got a plan to come back now, and now that their 2014 card rule has been vetoed, I mean, it sounds like their plan to come back in China is like a figment of F1's imagination, or like, I think it's more out of hope than expectation. And I'm very disappointed that Force India vetoed the vote, because Force India has got their own money problems at the moment. There's a lot of talk that they can't afford to build their chassis at the moment. Vijay Mallya's checks have bounced, apparently. They haven't got the money to build their cars. They missed the Jerez test. They're saying they're definitely going to miss the first Barcelona test. They may not even make the second Barcelona test at the end of February. So there's a lot of, you know, negative waves and, you know, bad speculation around Force India at the moment themselves. And Vijay Mallya has been very vocal on Twitter when it comes to talking about, you know, how there should be more financial sharing in Formula 1 and how the field should be a more level playing field in Formula 1. Yet, when it comes down to Marussia and possibly them coming back, which is something by principle you should agree with, given that you should try and get more teams to compete and have more independent teams, they turned their backs on them. I thought that was incredible. I was like, really? You turned around and stabbed Marussia in the back of the neck? And, you know, I think part of that reason is down to the fact that if they weren't allowed to compete, that their constructors' money from last year, the 25+ million that they would have gotten, was going to be equally distributed between the other teams. So maybe Force India needed the cash, and maybe they were just more willing to kick Mana F1 out of the club to essentially take their share of the prize money. Which is incredibly cold-hearted, very greedy, and I think it says a lot about the state of Formula 1 at the moment, where teams are willing to stab each other in the neck just for a few extra million, which is very disappointing if that's the case. Maybe Force India need the cash more desperately than we thought, which is just a shame more than anything else, and says a lot about the state of the sport, which is very, very sad. But, yeah, do you see a way back for Marussia? Do you think it's the end of the road for them? Should they be allowed to compete again if they're going to be uncompetitive? And, yeah, just tell me what your feelings on Marussia as it stands and Mana's potential comeback. And should it be a thing? Should it not be a thing? Were you too disappointed in the state of F1 where 2 or 3 of the smaller teams all got together and kicked Marussia to the curb? Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your opinions as always. But until then, I've been Harrison101. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.